Hi everyone, Professor Gustin here again, and we're going to talk about endocrine system. And just like when we talked about urinary system, this is going to be a very short introduction. I want you to know the major functions and locate the endocrine glands and a little bit about what some of them do. And because of that, I'm going to add a couple diseases on, but not a lot. I love this picture. It's really nicely done about the endocrine organs in a male and a female. And the main difference you're going to see there are the ovaries and the testes. Otherwise, they're pretty much alike. Okay, so when we did nervous system, I think I mentioned the endocrine system because I said the endocrine system and the nervous system are the two systems that are involved in communication. When you're a multicellular organism, one part of your body has to communicate with others. You've got to know what's going on at your toes. Your brain needs to be able to connect with your feet and your hands as well as everything that's closer. So multicellular organisms communicating with all those cells is a big deal. It allows the body to maintain homeostasis. Remember, the nervous system uses electrical signals and neurotransmitters to cause quick, brief actions. All this talking and moving and thinking about what I'm going to say and responding to my environment and sitting up straight, all that's my nervous system because it's happening quickly. It's brief. These are things that I'm going to change in just a minute. So the nervous system, those electrical signals with the neurotransmitters carry out most of that type of communication. Whereas the endocrine system is more, it's going to use chemicals called hormones. And in general, it's going to make slower, longer term changes in the body. So it's still communication, but it's a different kind of communication. It's kind of like sending an email versus sending a letter, maybe. They're both communication, but the endocrine system is going to use hormones and have slower, longer term changes in the body. There are hormones that cause quick responses like adrenaline, things like that. But by far, it's much more common for hormones to make kind of longer term changes and slower changes. Okay. And the endocrine system the organs of the endocrine system are the endocrine glands, and they're going to secrete hormones into the blood. So our blood's going to carry these hormones around and affect certain cells. So before we go a little bit further into that, I just want to give you a vocabulary of an endocrine gland and an exocrine gland. And I think it will just help you have an appreciation for what an endocrine gland does. You already know about some exocrine glands. These are glands, these are tissues that secrete solutions onto the surfaces. Exocrine glands secrete solutions onto surfaces through ducts. A duct is a little tube. So they're showing you here's an exocrine gland. It's making some kind of solution there. It's got a little tube and it's going to secrete this onto a surface. So this could be like a sweat gland or an oil gland that's making oil inside and it's secreting the oil onto the surface of your skin. The other glands that you're familiar exocrine glands you're familiar with is like the pancreas. Remember, the pancreas made digestive enzymes and it secretes those enzymes through a tube onto a surface, into something. So onto the surface of the duodenum, into the small intestine. So that would be the pancreas can act as an exocrine gland. Endocrine glands secrete hormones into the blood. So what they're showing you here is here's the endocrine gland, and the hormones come out of these cells, and not just from one place, but kind of from that entire gland. And those hormones are going to enter the blood and it's going to move throughout the body. When you sweat, your sweat kind of stays in one place. And that's what more exocrine. Endocrine, the hormone's going to spread throughout your body. Okay, so let's find the endocrine glands. And talk just a little bit about them. This is a picture from your book. So you have this, like I said with the previous video, make sure you know where these are. I'm going to put this on the exam 4 and on the final exam, these pictures. This is the picture from your book. Make sure you can find these glands. So there's a gland called the pituitary gland. It's attached to the brain, it's attached to the diencephalon. Part of that's called the hypothalamus. But it's right here in the middle. You can't get anywhere near it. It's kind of right in the middle of your skull. And that's where the pituitary gland is. And the pituitary gland is sometimes called the master gland because it makes a whole bunch of hormones that can regulate different parts of the body, including the thyroid, including the ovaries and the testes. It also makes things like growth hormones. So the pituitary gland makes a lot of different hormones. We're not going to talk very much about it though, but it's a big deal. Sorry about that. The thyroid gland. We're going to talk a little bit more about the thyroid gland. It's located right here. Here's the larynx and the trachea. So you put your hand on your larynx and then move it a little bit inferior to that, and you'll be touching the thyroid. And it's not, I think you have to have a little experience to know what you're feeling when you feel the thyroid. But if it's enlarged, it's noticeable, and you can palpate it from the outside. So you got the thyroid there on your trachea. This is the thyroid that they took off here. There's actually these glands called the parathyroid glands, and we're not going to talk much about them, but I want you to know that they're on the back side of the thyroid. And one of the reasons why scientists went for actually quite a while not knowing that the parathyroid glands even existed until they did things like remove part of somebody's thyroid gland, and then they have a calcium balance problem, and they realized, oh, there's some other glands there that are involved in balancing calcium, and they're called the parathyroid glands. So all you need to know about the parathyroid glands is that they're on the back side of the thyroid gland. The adrenal glands are on the superior portion of the kidneys. And a lot of us are familiar with adrenaline, epinephrine. It's the same thing. It's a hormone that causes us to act quickly. You know, we get startled, we feel that shot of adrenaline, we get excited, or we get scared, we feel that shot of adrenaline. And that's one of the hormones that causes us to make quick changes. But those two adrenal glands are located on the top of the kidneys. The pancreas, remember we talked about that with digestive system. It's one of the accessory organs, and the stomach kind of lays over top of it. But the pancreas, we said it's an exocrine gland because it makes digestive enzymes, but it's also an endocrine gland, and we're going to talk about that before this video is over. The ovaries are, well, let's see, the ovaries are down here. I'm going to say, where are they? They're down here because they're in females, and this is a male picture. So the ovaries are the female gonads, the sex glands, and the testes, where the ovaries are where the eggs are made, testes are where the sperm are made. And we're going to talk a little bit about those in reproduction. So make sure you can at least, oh, did I put thymus on there? There we go. Your thymus gland is kind of a weird one. Most people aren't even aware they have it. It's located on the surface of the heart. And it helps our immune system mature, and we actually don't use it much after childhood, so it shrinks away. But I always like to mention the thymus gland because if you go dissect a fetal pig, you can see this great big thymus gland sitting there. And then like I said, as you get through childhood, the thymus gland shrinks and we don't use it anymore. But it helps the immune system mature. The last one I have on here is the pineal gland, and they don't have it labeled in here, do they? But it's located, I think it's that little blue thing right there. It's the gland that makes melatonin. Anybody ever take melatonin to help them sleep? It helps set your biological clock. But that's the pineal gland's in the brain, and that's all you need to know about it. But it's in the brain. There's the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. I just wanted to give you a really brief introduction on how hormones work. So we said that a gland produces a hormone, and it goes into the blood. And so the hormone is the chemical, and when it goes into the blood, it eventually will find a target cell. So this is showing you, here's a capillary, and here's your hormone. That gland secreted some kind of hormone into your blood. And the hormones can attach to cells, but only if the cells have receptors that recognize that hormone. Okay, so there's certain cells. So if your pituitary makes a hormone that affects the thyroid gland, the thyroid cells will have receptors for that hormone. You can put that hormone can go touch my muscles and my heart, and it won't affect them because those cells don't have receptors. So the idea is a hormone that travels through the blood can flood our whole body, but will only affect the target cells because they have receptors. So not every cell responds to every hormone. And what's going to happen to these cells that attach to the hormone? They're going to have some kind of metabolic change. The hormone's going to cause some metabolic change. It depends on what the hormone is and what the target cell is. I just like to give you a little bit of an appreciation for hormones. One of the pieces of data I found somewhere, it says there's less than 1 teaspoon of estrogen. Now, probably most of you know estrogen is the female sex hormone. It causes us to ovulate. It causes females to have secondary female characteristics like breast development and different body changes, menstruation and all that. So estrogen's a big deal. It changes your body a lot. But less than 1 teaspoon of estrogen can be found in 1 million women at the peak of their fertility. If I take 1 million women at the peak of their fertility and isolated all of their estrogen, there'd be less than 1 teaspoonful. And the reason why I'm telling you that is to help emphasize is you only need a very, very small amount of a hormone to make a metabolic change. And the reason why I want you to know that is sometimes we hear about environmental pollutants that are hormone disruptors. And what that means is chemicals in our environment might mimic hormones and cause changes in our bodies. We try to figure that out. It's really hard to figure out because these are things that could happen in very, very low concentrations. But if you have an appreciation that it takes very little hormone to make a dramatic change in our bodies, for an environmental chemical that kind of looks like a hormone to our bodies to cause some effects isn't so hard to believe. So we only need very small amounts of hormones to affect metabolic changes in our bodies. No, there we go. We only need a very small amount of hormone to cause a change in a target cell. I'm going to stop right there. We're going to do another video on endocrine system, but I think this is a good place to stop and regroup.